Hi, everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Decoding the Unraveling. Today, we're diving deep into a fascinating question that takes us on a journey from scarce texts to the darkest corners of the occult philosophy. What does the number 9 truly mean? Specifically, we'll explore its significance in saint worship, LaVeyan Satanism, and the highly controversial order of the 9 angels. Let's unravel this numerical enigma, shall we? Part 1. The spiritual and scarce 9. Saint worship / general numerology. Let's get into it. First, let's talk about the number 9 in a more traditional and spiritual context, often seen in what's been called saint worship or broader numerology. If you ever heard of Derek Ware, or rather in some discussions, the theologian Derek W.H. Thomas, who preached on Acts chapter 9, the number 9 here carries powerful and positive connotations. Completion and endings. The number 9 is the last single digit number, often representing the accumulation of a cycle. This can mean the end of a phase, a journey, or a spiritual lesson, and most importantly, the readiness for new beginnings. Humanitarianism and universal love. Being compassion, altruism, and a desire to serve the greater good. 9 represents a deep understanding of interconnectedness. Spiritual awakening and wisdom is linked to enlightenment, higher understanding, and aligning with one's spiritual purpose. Letting go and transformation. Because it signifies an ending, it can be about releasing what no longer serves you to embrace transformation. In Christian contexts, like Acts chapter 9, where Peter travels and performs miracles, or Saul's conversion, the chapter number itself can imbue the events within with a sense of completion or a significant turning point in a spiritual journey. Now, let's shift gears dramatically and explore the meaning of the 9 in LaVeyan Satanism, founded by Atin LaVey. This is a very different interpretation, deeply rooted in the philosophy of individualism and self-deification. Let's dig in.
Well, when I was a teenager, I was interested in the occult. And the occult in those days meant you got dream books and you got books on fortune telling and all that sort of thing. And the closest thing there was to anything about calling up spirits or demons and that sort of thing was a lot of gobbledygook where you stood around in a circle and you used the protective names of Jehovah and Jesus and all that. And I tried it. Oh, Lord knows I tried it, but it didn't work. And so I thought to myself, well, if I'm going to call up any demons, if I'm going to get any magical power, if I'm going to get anything going my way, I better get on the side of those guys instead of protecting myself from them.
So now that we've pieced together what LaVey Satanism is, what are we left with?
Woodcut, and admittedly, it's much less elegant. You'll note the tuft of hairs throwing the symmetry off. But this image opens the window onto a more arcane side of the Renaissance. Here, the symmetries are set onto a pinnacle with circles and lines interacting. But unlike the Vitruvian Man, this golem is bounded by the horizon of heaven itself. Notice the astrological glyphs of the wandering stars and the symbol of the sun and the moon at the navel and the phallus.
For LaVeyan Satanists, the number 9 is profoundly significant as the number of the eagle. Self-return. LaVey highlighted that when you multiply 9 by any other number, and then the sum of the digits of the result, you always return to 9. Example of this is 9 times 2 equals 18, 1 plus 8 equals 9, 9 times 5 equals 45, 4 plus 5 equals 9. This mathematical property perfectly symbolizes LaVey's emphasis on the self, individual will, and the rejection of external deities. Let's get it. The 9 satanic statements. This is perhaps the most famous use of the number 9 in LaVeyan Satanism. These 9 core philosophical principles outline their beliefs, emphasizing indulgence, vital existence, underfilled wisdom, vengeance, and the idea of a man as just another animal. The number 9 here represents the foundational tenets of their anti-theistic and self-focused philosophies.
Old Boy and Lady Vengeance are linked through the themes of revenge, violence, and salvation. There are also multiple story elements that pop up in the films which make these stories
Completeness and cycles. Similar to general numerology, it can also suggest completion, but in a very personal sense. The accumulation of one's own desires and achievements, a self-mastered cycle. Let's get into that.
To get to this next level without, as my brethren says, without the next level finding us. You know, it's like life is peaks and valleys. And some people think that some people explain that as good times, bad times, but I actually think it's learning or let's say learning mastership, okay, or study mastership. I went from the top of one mountain. I mastered something. I mastered something and people appreciated it. But, you know, once you're on the top of that mountain, you have to go this way. But in hip-hop, everybody's like, I'm not moving. I'm the master. I'm great. I'm dope. I'm hot. I'm here. I've arrived. I'm not going anywhere. And that's when you stay stuck on top of one hill, one mountain, when, you know, God's intention is that we study and master a bunch of different things. I'm trying to get to this next level without, as my brethren says.
Please. Can I be honest with you? And what contributed to my cycle was this. I felt like I had more mojo when I was miserable. I worked harder. I was more locked in. I was more focused. But once I got out of a cycle of misery, I ended up being in a cycle of mediocrity because, listen to this, for my note takers, put this in the chat, nothing fails like success. Once I got out of that misery, I wasn't as motivated. So everybody listen to me, because if we're going to have our best year ever, we got to deal with this. Everybody listen to me. Please. Cycles of mediocrity are harder to break than cycles of misery. Can I be honest with you?
Part 3, the esoteric and extreme 9, the order of the 9 angels, or ONA. Finally, we venture into the most complex and controversial interpretation, the number 9 within the order of the 9 angels, or ONA. This is a highly secretive, extremist, and decentralized group that mixes occultism, Satanism, and neo-Nazism, and a unique form of mysticism. Their understanding of the 9 is deeply embedded in the dark cosmologies.
Asking about 09, I'm going to sound like a nutcase now. So, as well as doing work, war and reporting, I often war and conflict. So let's start again. as well as covering war and conflict, I cover like extremist politics as well, because obviously a lot of extremists within politics become terrorists, become militants, whatever. It kind of goes hand in hand. So a few years back, I was looking into a neo-Nazi group called Atomwaffen Division, essentially like a neo-Nazi paramilitary group in America. They killed, I think, like 4 or 5 people in total. Where did the 09A come in? Yeah. So I was looking at them, and then all of a sudden I started seeing this weird, like, satanic iconography come into their like designs. And I recognise some of it because outside of my work, I'm fascinated with like weird, like occult stuff. Not that I practice it or anything like that. I just find it interesting, like cults and like weird kind of devil worship type stuff. All the like cheerful stuff, you know what I mean? so I was looking into it, and then I was like, I know that symbol. And basically, long story short, a satanic kind of occult group that started in England and believes in like human sacrifices had made its way somehow through the internet to a neo-Nazi group in America who took on their iconography and were like, right, we're like the paramilitary kind of neo-Nazi 09A force. 09A is Order of 9 Angles. It's weird And this isn't like, you get all these satanic idiots. Every third podcast in Britain is, have you heard about this satanic paedophile ring? And 9 times out of 10, it's unfortunately masking a very real issue, but blowing it out of proportion with nonsense conspiracy stuff. But this was real. Like, this is, all of 9 angles is like actually linked to murders, 2 human sacrifices in Russia last year, actually. So this is a real group, and I was like, wow, that's fascinating. And this Nazi group kind of took on 09A iconography, and some of them even kind of became more interested in the 09A than the Nazi stuff. And yeah, it's just this, the founder of it.
For the ONA, the 9 angels are central to the worldwide view, known as the Eonic Society, right? Eonic cosmology. The ONA believes in eons, which is vast periods of human civilization. Their aim is to hasten the collapse of the current Judeo-Christian system and ushering about a new, more sinister one. 7 celestial bodies plus 2 esoteric angels. The 9 angels often refer to the 7 classical celestial bodies that they believe can manipulate through magic. We're talking about white and black magic, I'm assuming. The 8th angel represents the entire cosmic system, and the 9th angel is the most significant, representing the casual realm, right? This is a dimension beyond our physical, casual world, and the ONA seeks to channel forces from the casual realm to influence the casual and achieve their goals.
Have the idea that there are 2 sort of mighty gods. One is the source of material things, which obviously are bad. The Gnostics have the idea that there are 2 sort of mighty gods. One is the source of material things, which obviously are bad. And then there's the supreme God who's spiritual. The physical God, the one who's into material things, produces angels to rule over physical things. And they're like, angels are bad. And then there's the supreme spiritual God. And so he has an equivalent of angels, and they're called aeons. And all Gnostics are trying to kind of draw on biblical language, and then these aeons, these spiritual angels, the goodly one, they have, the spiritual ones, aeons, and then they have names like peace, righteousness, love, goodness, because the idea is that spiritual God has embodied aspects of his divinity into the aeons. That's so under this Gnostic idea, physical versus spiritual, that's the kind of basic division, and that's evil physical, good spiritual. And then there are 2 gods, a god associated with the evil physical, and then there's a good god associated with the spiritual. And then the good god has aeons, and then there's the evil god has angels. Now, the relevance of this is that the Gnostics would say, now this good God who's into the spiritual stuff, he has these aeons that are created out of him, formed out of him, and like R.P.C. Hansen, a famous historian of early church history, says like Hippolytus, one of the church leaders, quotes Gnostics as using the word homoousios. The Gnostics have the
alchemy stages. Another interpretation links to the 9 angels or 7 normal alchemical stages, plus 2 additional esoteric processes involving esoteric time, emphasizing radical personnel and societal transformation. Let's get into that.
Profound transformation of attitudes and consciousness. This ancient practice traces its roots back to history, bifurcating into 2 distinct branches, physical chemistry and spiritual chemistry. While physical chemistry delves into scientific and material aspects, spiritual chemistry unfolds as a sacred art concerned with inner metamorphosis. It is the principle that personal transformation is the key to an alchemist's journey to transmutation. As a result of this internal change, the alchemist's pursuit of higher understanding is aligned with their ambition to become better individuals. Historically, many alchemists were driven by profound religious beliefs. dedicating their efforts to social improvement and personal growth. As we venture further into the labyrinthine depths of esoteric alchemy, the journey of transformation takes center stage, guided by the profound understanding that the alchemical process is a reflection of both the macrocosm and the microcosm. At its heart lies the ancient principle of as above, so below, which encapsulates the idea that the processes occurring in the material world mirror those within the inner realm of the alchemist. The core of esoteric alchemy rests in the transmutation of man, an essential pursuit represented through various cultural symbols and beliefs. Alchemists from diverse corners of the world approach this concept differently, employing distinct symbols to convey the significance of self-transmutation. The elixir of life, often symbolized as the philosopher's stone, becomes the catalyst through which an individual's transformation unfolds. Purification emerges as the foundational step in the transformative process, resonating with the idea of removing impurities to uncover the inherent essence of a substance. Just as a scientist seeks pristine materials for their experiments, they must first embark on the path of personal purification. This purification extends beyond the physical realm, delving deep into the emotional and mental dimensions of the self. Much like refining raw materials to their purest state, inner purification entails shedding the dross and limitations that hinder spiritual growth. In the alchemist's journey, this translates into shedding harmful attitudes, negative emotions, and self-imposed restrictions. Through this inner alchemy, the individual gains access to a more refined state of being, an essential prerequisite for engaging in deeper spiritual experiences. Alchemy and inner purification have striking parallels. Just as metals go through rigorous procedures to rid themselves of impurities, individuals strive to achieve the same internally. By eliminating psychological and emotional impurities that cloud the authentic self, one paves the way for profound understanding and a stronger link with higher truths. This process of inner purification is not only symbolic, but also practical. By freeing oneself from emotional burdens and mental clutter, the individual creates space for clarity and heightened awareness. As a result of this purified state of being, the individual is better able to navigate life's challenges with greater equanimity and clarity. Purification of the inner self is a philosophy that resonates across numerous spiritual traditions. Not just alchemy, it echoes the notion of cleansing the soul, a concept found in religions and philosophies throughout history. From a psychological standpoint, inner purification aligns with the principles of self-awareness and personal growth, highlighting the importance of introspection and conscious transformation. Paulo Coelho once said, "The alchemists spent years in their laboratories, observing the fire that purified the metals. They spent so much time close to the fire that gradually they gave up the vanities of the world. They discovered that the purification of the metals had led to a purification of themselves." In this context, the seeker becomes a symbolic representation of the individual's journey towards self-realization. The alchemical process is a mirror that reflects the ongoing struggle and triumph of human consciousness. It is a reminder that just as metals are refined through fire, individuals undergo challenges and trials to shed their limitations and discover their authentic selves. At the heart,
Disruption and transformation. At its core, the NOA's use of 9 signifies a complete, radical overhaul, a breakdown of existing structures to usher in their vision of a new Imperium society. Their methods are often extreme and advocate for violence and transgression as means to achieve their end. It's crucial to understand that the NOA's philosophy is dangerous and it promotes highly destructive ideologies, vastly different from other forms of Satan worship or traditional spiritual beliefs. Conclusion and call of action. From the compassionate completion of spiritual growth to the egocentric focus of individualism, and finally, the dark transformative aims of an extremist ideology. The number 9 truly holds a diverse and often contradictory range of meanings depending on the belief system. It's a powerful reminder of how symbols can be interpreted and reinterpreted to suit vastly different worldviews. What do you think about the number 9? Were you surprised by any of these interpretations? Let us know by the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe. This is my new YouTube channel first and my first video. So give me some support, y'all, so I can start putting some quality into this stuff. Like I said, make sure you get that notification bell so you don't miss out on the next video. And I'll catch y'all next time. Thank you.